33 567 208 or visit us at 303 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PH.
You're listening to Peterborough's community radio, Salam Radio. Salam Radio. 106.2 FM.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. You're listening to Salam Radio on 106.2 FM. I'm your host for the next hour, and I have with me my co-host,
Kieron Bateman.
How are you, Kieron?
I'm all good, Shaz. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good indeed. How's life been last week?
Busy.
Yeah?
I mean, life's always busy, isn't it? There's always something going on. There's always things to work on and things to work towards.
That's just...
I mean, how's life been for you?
Busy.
Shocking.
Watching the football.
Oh, I missed that game last night. I heard it was a bit of a doozy.
Well, we move on.
But one of my friends is Spanish, so he's very happy.
Yeah, I bet he is, yeah. I think it was reasonably obvious what was going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Based on previous performances in the last couple of weeks. But
I think so.
getting to the final, I think, is no mean feat.
It's an achievement in and of itself. So, yeah.
And then back-to-back is even better.
Yeah.
So, onwards and upwards.
Always. The question is, what have they learnt from that defeat?
We'll call them in and find out.
Yeah, I'd love
have
to
a conversation. Yeah, I'm sure that there's plenty of lessons as always, and you're one step closer to victory.
Yep.
However many steps there may be, you don't know.
I mean, yeah.
As always, we welcome your participation, and you can do that by calling in the studio on 01733 602 133, text on 07411 191 062, or comment on any of the live streams on Facebook, YouTube, X, or Twitch. This week on Wealth Made Simple, we are talking about leverage. And I know, Kieron, it's one of our favorite tools.
It is.
And I think it's important to share with our listeners and viewers how important this tool is for them in their business, whatever their business might be.
I completely agree. And I also... We'll start. There is a lot to cover over the next hour about leverage that we've got, and so this may well take more than one show. So
we're gonna leverage over two shows.
Yes, we are.
You're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, which makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've done the work.
Yeah,
we've done the research. We've written the script. We know the show. There's no point only giving half of the show.
Or rushing through it, because it's such an important topic.
Yeah.
I mean, I try not to overuse, the word game changer, or, this is the most important thing that you'll ever learn. But this is very important.
I think this is very, very important. It's so commonly misunderstood on so many levels.
Yeah, and it is an absolute game changer.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Once it's grasped and implemented.
Yes.
And I mean, leverage is a very powerful tool that individuals and businesses can amplify their personal and their business results. Whether we're looking at, let's say, financial growth, operational efficiency, strategic advantage, and you and I are going to obviously talk about the concept of leverage and talk through some examples on how people can effectively and efficiently use leverage.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's personal and there's business, and we're going to obviously focus on business in this
primarily business,
session, because that's what our show's about, isn't it? It's about business and business concepts, and of course there are. I mean, you can leverage in every part of your business, but you and I have chosen to kind of focus on 5 different areas.
Yes.
So financial, operational, time, knowledge, relationship, and those are the 5 big ones in our view.
Yeah, no, they really, really are. And if you're lucky, at the end of the second show, I'll give you a free 6th one.
There you go. So make sure you stay tuned today and next week.
And next week.
All right, to the end, and we'll share a 6th bonus one with you. So financial leverage, Kieron.
I mean, I think financial leverage is probably better understood by you out of the two of us.
Yes.
Although I do use it, but there are people view financial leverage in different ways, and some people view it very negatively. And I think we've got an example a little bit later that will show you how it can be used very proactively, very productively, to be very, very beneficial.
And I think most people have heard someone somewhere in their life say, money makes money.
Yes.
And
it takes money to make money.
Yeah, and it's using other people's money, but be it a bank or an institution or a lender or an individual, is a good advantage in terms of making progress quicker. So I think people understand that.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what financial leverage is all about. It's obviously utilizing other people's. By people, I mean it could be a bank, institution, anything. Somebody else's money to fund your own business growth and expand your operations, acquire working capital, acquire assets, enter new markets.
Well, I mean, if you just used your own money, and hypothetically, say you're just starting a business, you've just started, you've got, your salary, and say you're on an average salary of £30,000 a year.
Yep.
You take home just under £2,000 a month on £30,000 a year. You then have all of your bills, your rent, your home, your food, anything else that you want to come out of that. What is left for you to invest? How much do you have left? For some people it might be more, for some people it might be less, some people it may be nothing. But the point is, if you just allocate that to investing, you've got, let's be really generous and say you can invest half of your salary. Now, I know that's completely unrealistic, but let's be really generous. You can invest £1,000 a month. Okay. What does £1,000 a month get you in business?
Not a lot, unless you're obviously selling something online. Even then, it's going to be hard.
What does £100,000 get you in business?
A totally different place.
Yeah, but if you borrowed or used other people's money to get to £100,000, you could be making more per month than that will ever cost you.
Yeah, of course, because you'll have a cost of financing, whatever that might be. And this could be, some people prefer to pay interest, other people prefer to have some kind of a profit share. Whatever it might be.
Whatever works for you.
Let's say you're doing a 50% profit share. Let's be generous, because we're being generous today. You've still got the other 50%, which is more than what you'd be earning on the £1,000 that you've obviously started this example with or through.
Yeah. So it's that, something we've said a lot before. I would rather have 50% of a much larger pie than 100% of a tiny pie.
Yeah. Or 100% of nothing.
No pie. Yeah.
So we'll talk more about that. Then second, we'll be moving on to operational leverage. And this is about obviously streamlining your operations to increase efficiency, effectiveness, and to also leverage the ever-evolving, ever-changing tech out there and automation to make your operations, as I said earlier, streamline and better. And of course, as you know, Kieron, there are so many automation tools out there. There are so many CRMs, customer relationship management systems, that can handle so much of the customer interaction, answer questions.
So much information.
Chatbot, so on and so forth. Manage your sales process, and it allows then your physical team members to then focus on the real important strategic tasks, which obviously CRMs can't do right now. There's quite a lot they can do, but they can't do everything.
No, not yet.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. Time leverage.
Time leverage is a fantastic one, because this allows you to prioritize what you're doing when you're doing it and how much time you spend doing it. If I get a phone call late at night, I decide whether I answer the phone or not, because my time is important. What I'm doing is important to me.
Yep.
And so you can learn to delegate tasks and outsource non-core activities for yourself to free up your time to do higher value things that will generate more money, things that will generate more interest, things that are better for you personally.
Yeah, and I mean, John Harvey Jones, who's chairman of ICI, is well known for saying, as a manager, only do what only you can do, the rest delegate.
Yeah, completely agree.
I think it's Brian Tracy who talks about different concepts in terms of KPIs, and talks about income generating tasks and the high value tasks.
Yeah.
As a business owner, you should be focused on this. Everything else, either train somebody else to do it, or find people who can already do it and just pass it over to them.
Yeah.
Don't get bogged down on the tasks somebody else could do, and most likely do better than you can do, so you can focus on the stuff that you're really good at.
Yeah, and something that you see time and time again, and I've certainly seen it a lot recently in one of the companies that I've done some work with, is when senior management takes on everything because they don't trust their staff to do any of the things. You've got a bunch of highly qualified individuals who are very good at what they do, twiddling their thumbs because the manager won't release and let go. He's gatekeeping everything, and everything's taking 10, 50 times longer than it needs to, and everyone else is getting frustrated.
They're doing a disservice, because if they think about it, let's say they're charging £30 an hour.
Yeah.
But they can pay somebody £15 an hour to do some of those tasks.
Yeah.
So they're wasting £15 per hour for however many hours they're spending a week on that work.
But then the
Makes no
manager's
sense.
complaining that people aren't doing things and that stuff's not getting done, and it's not, the turnaround's not right. And they're all sat there going, "Well, hang about. You need to give us access to all of these things so that we can help you. We're here to do our jobs. We want to do our jobs. You need to trust us to do our jobs."
Yeah, and that's born from, obviously, different fears. One of them could be, once I show them all this, they'll know how everything works, and then they'll take my job, for example, which couldn't be further from the truth in most scenarios.
No.
But what people fear in their minds, obviously, is made up stuff.
Yeah, it really is.
It's that old thing, saying the acronym for fear is false expectations appearing real.
Yeah.
So, and then some people sometimes say, "Well, I can't afford to employ somebody," and I would say, "Can you afford not to?" Because let's say, well, if you didn't have X tasks, and I will ask them to list all the tasks that they work on every single week, not by just sitting in a room and making things up. I will say, next 4 weeks, keep a timesheet.
Yep.
List everything you do. I know it's boring and mundane, and some of the stuff's going to sound really trivial. List it out. Then now let's make a list of, basically give them a number 1, 2, and 3. 1 is somebody else should definitely be doing this. 2 is somebody else could do it and you could do it. And 3 is only you can do it.
Yeah.
Let's say there's 60 different things that they've done, okay, over that month, and most of them are repeated every week, okay?
I guarantee at least 45 of those can be...
Yeah, and see, if you free you up now, and then all the ones that have a 3 next to them, you're spending 2, 3, 4 times as much time every week and month doing them. How much more can you increase your income by?
Yeah.
And then that's when the interesting conversation starts. So why don't we start moving on? Let's employ somebody part-time. Let's just say 10 hours. Or let's get a freelancer.
Yeah, or a virtual assistant.
Or a VA to assist you, just to free you up a little bit. And as you start seeing the return, you can then start investing that return into buying more hours from somebody for them to support you.
Yep.
But if you're carrying everything yourself, you'll never be able to get onto those important tasks. So time leverage, I think, is one of the most important leverages someone can use.
Absolutely.
Knowledge leverage, again, is a game changer, because that, I think, sparks everything else.
Yes. Yeah, I think leveraging other people's knowledge, leveraging other people's experience, by way of coaches, mentors, online classes, books, consultants, training, continual professional development, CPD.
Yeah.
Leveraging all of that will speed up your learning curve exponentially, but then leveraging your knowledge to others.
Yeah.
in exactly the same manner that you've leveraged other people's knowledge to yourself.
What goes around comes around, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In a positive way as well.
Yeah.
And it's going to help you to avoid some of the mistakes you may end up making. And it's all done, by the way, when you go through this particular process, okay, one of the things that your trainers, consultants, coaches, mentors, so on and so forth will teach you is leverage.
Yeah.
Because they understand the importance of that.
Yeah, they really will. And it's one of those things, I had a thought there and I've lost it.
While you think about it.
While I think about it.
And the fifth one is relationship leverage. And this is building partnerships with people, having strategic alliances, having a network, which, as we know, leads to your net worth, to enhance business opportunities, sharing of ideas, resources, opportunities, so on and so forth. It's massive. Huge.
Yeah, huge.
And the fifth one, I think, is also key and important because that opens up doors and opportunities for you, which you wouldn't otherwise have if you sat in your office all the time. But, and this links in well with time leverage, because if you're spending all your time doing all the tasks in your office, you haven't got time to go out to talk to people. Therefore, you're missing out on stuff that you don't know about.
And you're missing out on learning about other stuff.
Yeah.
Or other people learning about you and what you do.
A bit of both, yeah. And then there's 4 key areas you want people to look at. Assess risk and reward.
Yeah. So, I mean, for all of these leverages, there is a trade-off to make. You know, whether it's your time for somebody else's, whether it's money for time. The risk reward you've got to look at is, can I afford to do this? Well, I hate that phrase, personally. I really hate that phrase. Mm-hmm. Can I afford to do this? No, that is never the question.
Yeah.
The question is, can I afford not to?
Yeah.
Is it going to enhance me to the point where it replaces one of my jobs, one of my roles? Can I afford not to do this? If, you've experienced this, I know, hundreds of times in consultations and in meetings of, Mr. Nawaz, what's your fee? My fee is this. Oh, that seems like quite a big number, Mr. Nawaz. Yep, but I'm going to save you 10 times as much.
Yeah.
And with respect, I've got, 30,
a bit of experience.
30 years experience doing this, so I know I can do that for you, and you're paying for that experience. You, by all means, go ahead and try and do that on your own, but I guarantee you won't be as successful. Yeah, and obviously, I know you don't say that to customers and clients, but that is the truth of the matter, is your experience is worth what you charge versus how much you can save them. And then suddenly, I'm just going to pick random figures out, so, this isn't, anything.
It's off the cuff.
Off the cuff. But if somebody says to me, I'm going to charge you £5,000 for my services, that seems like a lot of money. Yes, but I will save you at least £50,000.
Or help you make £50,000.
Or help you make £50,000. All right. Well, I mean, take the money. Yeah. Shut up and take my money. Stop talking. Take my money.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is, if somebody's helping you make, let's say, as opposed to save, because some savings might just be one-off savings.
Yeah.
But if someone's helping you make £50,000, you can repeat that next year and the year after and the year after and the year after, year after. You only paid £5,000 once, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be naive, and I'll use the word foolish, not to pay them some more money next year or whatever the frequency may be. But if once you've learned that, you can keep repeating it.
It's repeatable.
So it's not £5,000 for £50,000. It's £5,000 for £50,000 on a regular, routine, frequent basis.
Yeah.
And that depends how obviously frequent it is. But even if it's once a year and you've got another 20 years to go in business, well, that's £1 million quid.
It's £1 million. So
we paying £5,000. And not every time you pay £5,000, you might not get to £50,000 by the way. That's fine. But you might get somewhere close near there, because the person who's charging you money will be giving you some form of a guarantee, I hope. Assurance.
Assurance, and that's just it. So that's where I'm saying assess risk and reward. Can you afford not to do something?
Yeah.
And that also makes your entire mindset completely different, because you're no longer in a a
Poverty mindset, maybe?
positive. You're in much more of a
Abundance.
abundance mindset. That's the word I was looking for. You've done this
I
before.
can read your mind. Yeah. I've been around you too long now.
Yeah.
The second one is obviously to maintain flexibility. And I guess this applies across the board. So you want to make sure that obviously you're using leverage, but it doesn't overly constrain the flexibility of your business and your ability to adapt. Because sometimes people go all in,
Yes.
and then ignore everything else that's going on around them and figure out they've gone too deep too quickly.
Yeah.
So pick and choose what's right for you. I mean, obviously, we've just picked 5 areas of leverage. There are many more. But if you go too deep in one of them and avoid the others and everything else that's going on, that won't be good for you. Or if you're trying to implement all 5 next week, that ain't going to work either. It takes time. So
it takes time.
It's iterative. You got to do it slowly and spend time on it.
And when you're spending time on it, it allows you to monitor your performance.
Absolutely, which is our third one.
And you can review your outcomes, review your leveraging strategies, make sure they're delivering what you expect them to deliver, make sure you're obtaining what you want to obtain. And with that flexibility from the last point, that flexibility allows you to monitor, pivot, change, move on, move forward, adapt.
Yeah, and it links
grow.
in with what you were talking about last week in terms of a ship or a boat, I think, leaving Portsmouth or Southampton, travelling across the pond. And
1 degree,
going
of course.
direction by 1 degree and ending up in a completely different place.
Yeah.
Same thing can happen here and in other parts of life and business.
Yep.
And the fourth one, which is very important, which is to seek professional advice. Now, as you've already made clear, Kieron, professional means somebody's going to charge you for it.
Yeah.
And we should all be okay paying for it because there's a benefit for us.
Yeah, and I think
Which links in with the first one, which is assess risk and reward.
Yeah, and I think there's a great because there is such a plethora of free information out there. People sometimes become apoplectic towards paying for a service. Like, well, why should I pay for that? I can get it for free online. Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. If I was going to write a will, for example, I can get a template for 20 quid offline.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I know for guaranteed fact that it's been witnessed correctly, signed correctly, named correctly, filled in properly?
And all the right questions asked?
And if it goes wrong, who's responsible? Who's liable? Is it me?
Yep.
I've got no comeback for that. If I spend £180 on getting a will written with a law firm who do this day in, day out, they know what questions to ask, they know which bit needs to be filled in, where it needs to be signed, where it needs to be countersigned, who it needs to be countersigned by, how it needs to... All of this, and then if when the time comes that will is not upheld for whatever reason, they've got public liability insurance so that I or a member of my family can go back to them and go, no, you did this.
Yeah, they'll have the
indemnities.
Right. Yep. But they'll ask you the right questions for things you haven't even thought about.
Yeah.
Because the person who's writing that will usually, will have a considerable amount of experience depending on how long they've been doing it for. If they haven't, they'll have somebody who's looking over the work that they're doing. If they're a trainee or somebody new, so they'll ask you the questions that you'll think about, and you'll have a comprehensive will written for you, which is fit for purpose.
And that's kind of the point. Whatever, yeah. If you've got a toothache, you go to a dentist. You go see a professional. If you want to, have, some.
The last time you were talking about this, Kieron, you said if you got a toothache, get a pair of pliers.
I mean, yeah, I know.
Is that just for me to do it at home?
That's just for you.
You're just trying to save me money.
I was trying to save you money. Yep. But that's the thing. If you've got a broken leg, you don't try and fix it yourself. You go to a doctor. Yeah. You've got tooth falling out. You go to a dentist. And we're okay with that. We completely accept that I'm injured, I must see a doctor.
Yeah, and most people get this because whatever service or product that they're selling, they know the benefits of it. And when someone says to them, when they're buying that thing, they can buy it cheaper elsewhere and it's not exactly the same. They get it. They will hold them. You're not comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
You're comparing apples to oranges, yeah? So we all get it because we have people who come into our business as prospects, wanting to be customers or clients or patients, who sometimes think they know better or they know more just because they've seen a few YouTube videos, so on and so forth,
Yep.
and now they're an expert, and you think you don't quite understand how this works. So everybody gets that.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's amazing to me that even with that, people still want to avoid or get a freebie and stuff like. Just accept that you've got to pay for some things, and do your due diligence and pay for the right things at the right time, and they will pay you back in excess. In my opinion,
there will be a decent return.
Always.
That's what we're going to focus on, obviously, on what's left of this particular episode, and then next week, and it might even be the week after, because like I said, this is so
This
important.
is deep.
You and I really understand the importance of this, so we might as well get it out of the way as deeply as we can.
Yep.
And give it the time that this requires. But for now, what we're going to do, Kieron, is we're going to leverage our break. And please make sure you join us within the next 5 minutes, after the next 5 minutes, so we can go deep into financial leverage and the other concepts of leverage. See you very shortly.
2020 World Buffet is inspired by the best foods from around the world. See our teppanyaki chefs grill your food to order, or choose delicious Indian, Italian, Chinese, Mexican dishes and British favourites, all halal. 2020 World Buffet offers you unlimited food at a set price. Open 7 days for lunch and dinner. Catering, wedding and party services available too. Call 01733 566 320 or visit 2020buffet.co.uk. 2020 World Buffet, 35 New Road, Peterborough, PE1 1FJ.
Craving authentic Desi flavors? Look no further than Desi Restaurant. From midday until 1 in the morning, enjoy our homemade specialties that will transport your taste buds. Indulge in tantalizing papri chaat and savor the rich Chersi Kadahi. Treat your friends to our fresh 1 kilogram Chersi lamb handi. Plus, get 2 12-inch pizzas for $11.95. Located at 298 Lincoln Road, we deliver from lunchtime until 1 a.m. Call 01733 555 795 now to order and experience Desi Restaurant's flavors.
At Cake Inn, all our cakes and slices are freshly baked for that delicious taste. At Cake Inn, we bake 100% vegetarian and halal eggless fresh cream cakes. Delicious flavoured cakes for birthdays and weddings, ceremonies and all other occasions, with free customised messages, even balloons and candles too. Order for delivery or collection from Cake Inn, 489 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PE, and your cake could be ready within 2 hours. Find out more and order online at cakeinn.co.uk or call 01733 496 584.
At Master's Pharmacy, we put your health and convenience first. We offer free blood pressure checks and blister-packed medication. With our free same-day prescription delivery service, you can have your medication when you need it. We also offer travel vaccinations, including Hajj and Umrah, along with other services to meet all your pharmacy needs. For more information, contact Master's Pharmacy on 01733 567 208 or visit us at 303 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PH.
Satisfy your cravings at Ibrahimi Buffet Restaurant. Enjoy a tantalizing variety of Chinese, Italian, Pakistani and comfort food favourites, from starters to desserts. Kids under 5 dine for free, so bring the whole family to our location at 63 Sycamore Avenue. Open every day from 5 p.m. till 10:30 p.m. Call us on 01733 313131 or book online to reserve your table. Ibrahimi-restaurant.co.uk. Every bite is a delight at Ibrahimi Buffet Restaurant.
Discover peace of mind with Islamic wills from W&P Legal and Mariam Khan. Expertly tailored to respect Islamic principles and UK law, ensuring your legacy is honoured. We offer tax-efficient wills, probate, lasting power of attorney and more. Trust us for a culturally sensitive estate plan. Your legacy, our priority. Call W&P Legal now on 01778 252 301.
Bite into something wonderfully tasty at Big Mouth, 349 Lincoln Road in Peterborough. Eating in, for takeaway or delivery, Big Mouth now have a delicious new menu full of all your favourites. Crispy fried chicken, juicy smashed burgers, finger-licking peri-peri chicken, handmade pizzas, quality doner meat and so much more. So visit the family-friendly Big Mouth restaurant for fantastically fresh food. Call 01733 201020 or visit getbigmouthonline.com.
This is Salam Radio, Peterborough's Muslim community radio. Broadcasting on 106.2 FM and online.
Assalamu alaikum, and if you've rejoined us, then welcome back. And if you just tuned in, thank you very much for tuning in. Now, you obviously missed a very important first half of this particular episode if you just tuned in, so be sure to go back and listen to it, because this really is what I said earlier on in the first half, which is a game changer. And I try not to use that word
kind of.
too often, not too often, and you'll understand exactly why when you listen to the first half. You're listening to Salam Radio 106.2 FM. I'm your host Shaz Nawaz, and I have in the studio with me my colleague Kieron Bateman. As always, we welcome your participation. You can do that by calling in on 01733 602 133. You can text on 07411 191 062 or comment on any of the live streams on Facebook, YouTube, X or Twitch. This week on Wealth Made Simple, we are talking about leverage. And in the first half, we talked about the 5 different types of leverage that we're focusing on. Of course, there are many different types of leverage in every part of your business and your personal life, but we've just chosen 5 for now. And the first one that we're going to focus on, after obviously our introduction, Kieron, is financial leverage.
My no, I like financial leverage is not my favorite leverage.
Yeah,
it's up there. I think it's
the one that drives everything else. I think.
Yeah,
because it's probably the clearest and the easiest to quantify when you know how. But all the others take a bit more time, because we've said relationship leverage, for example, and try and quantify that. It's difficult to do it in numbers. It's not impossible, but someone needs to show you, okay, let me show you how it works for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas, and same with time leverage, so on and so forth. But this one here, you can explain reasonably easily.
Give me a spreadsheet. I can show you how leverage works with money.
Absolutely. Or give me a flip chart. As you know. And about 600 pieces of paper and
600,
4 different coloured pens.
You're being generous. Only 600.
Well, I'm going to flip them over, aren't I?
Okay, so that's 1,200. So you're leveraging both sides of the paper.
I do that all the time. You've seen, haven't you? I'm probably the only one on stage, aren't I? They think, this guy's cheap. I think, let's flip it over. Why use a new chart,
Yeah, but it works.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, that's just the way it is. But I mean, as you know, I get through a lot of people. I mean, why use PowerPoint when you can use a pen and a flip chart?
Death by PowerPoint.
Yeah, exactly. So financial leverage is where you use somebody else's, and by somebody else, I mean, it can be an organization, an institution, so on and so forth. But the money comes from another source.
Yeah, it's not coming direct from your bank account.
And you then amplify your own potential return, an actual return over time, by using those funds. Now, some people may call it debt. Some people might call it other people's equity or other people's money. Call it whatever you like, but it's making your business more capital rich, or giving you more money in terms of working capital and investment capital to enjoy a higher return, and also obviously capital growth. At the same time, it improves and increases your cash flow and enables you to give some kind of a return to the person who's giving you money, be that interest, be that equity, share of profits, whatever anybody chooses. We're not here to obviously give investment advice, because we're not qualified to do so. Well, I'm not authorized to do so.
Yeah.
But we are here to share what people could do, and then it's obviously for them to then go away and seek further information on those particular areas. But financial leverage is very important, and there are 4 key components, Kieron. The first one is
debt financing.
Yeah. So this
borrowing funds, as you kind of expect, that allow you to add a force multiplier to whatever it is you're doing.
Exactly, and this could be you can have a loan, you can have bonds, especially if you're large enough, i.e. government bonds, gilts, so on and so forth. Other debt instruments which allow you to obviously bring cash into your business, which you can then deploy and create a higher return than what you're paying to make use of that money. Okay. Then the second one is equity financing. This is either using your own capital or the retained earnings from your business, or bringing in another party who you give some form kind of an equity share to bring more cash in.
Yep. Yeah. And then after that, you've got your interest rates, understanding the cost of borrowing if you're going to go down that route, which impacts your overall profitability, what your leveraged investments are, and how much you can potentially make. Sometimes it's better than you think to do that.
And you need to be fully aware, because once if you're talking about loans here, once you've taken that debt or loan, the interest payment and the capital repayment is guaranteed every single month. So if you don't do anything with that money for 3 or 4 months, it's still costing you.
Yes.
And if you don't make your work harder than what you're paying out, you're going to make a loss.
Yes.
So you're going to be fully aware of how you're going to deploy and utilize those funds. And then obviously, if you're looking for a lot of capital and your business is of a particular size, then you can float your company on the FTSE stock exchange, of course, or you can obviously also float it on AIM, the alternative investment market. But most of the people who are tuning into our show, I assume, run small businesses, because that's the area that we work on and target. So we're going to not talk about that, but that is an additional option, an opportunity.
Just want to raise your awareness to
that size, and why not? Something to aim for. And the fourth thing to think about when you're looking at or considering financial leverage is the return on investment.
Yeah, so, which is massive.
Absolutely.
But I think that's probably the most important part or idea.
That's the opportunity, isn't it? This is the opportunity.
Yeah.
To get to this, you need to look at the other 3 steps and say, okay, what can I make from this?
Yeah, exactly.
And be clear on that, because if that number is 0 or minus, then it's not worth doing.
No.
And it shouldn't be 0 or minus, by the way, but we're just making it obvious.
But in some instances, it might be a fluctuating number where if the ROI isn't high enough and it fluctuates down, it can wipe out all the good progress you've made. So it's just something to
think about.
Yeah.
And sometimes one may inject capital, be it their own, somebody else's, but by way of equity, debt financing, whatever it may be, and things might not work out.
Yeah.
And that happens because you may be looking to diversify into a new segment.
Yeah.
And that segment doesn't work. I don't think that should stop people trying again.
No, it should. No, it really shouldn't. I think, the difference between the master and the apprentice is the master's failed more times than the apprentice has even tried.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you want to get successful, double your failure rate.
Yeah, exactly. Simple as that. So how it works is, again, reasonably obvious to us, but we thought we'd just share it.
Just cover it off.
People are fully aware. You borrow funds from an institution, a different business, or an investor to use in your business. Then number 2, you invest those funds to make sure you can either buy capital items, assets, which you're going to sweat, stock, so on and so forth, real estate, machinery, or into a different market. So you make the investment. The third step is you then look to generate some kind of a return, i.e.
the best part,
money coming in. And the fourth step, of course, with that is you repay the debt. Now, steps 2 and 3 might not happen quickly enough, where step 1, you borrowed the funds, and after the first 30 days, you've got to go to step 4, which is make the first repayment of the debt. So this isn't in any particular order, but it'd be good if it works in this particular way for you.
If you can get it to work in this way, great. But you can't rely on it working that way.
These are the 4 things that basically you need to be aware of. So let's say you borrow £100,000, and then let's say you've gone to a bank because that was your only source.
Yep.
And you're comfortable with that, so you're paying interest of 5% on the money that you borrowed, but you're going to generate a 20% return once you've deployed the £100,000.
Yeah.
And in very simple terms, of course, you're making 20,000, you're paying out 5,000, so there's a £15,000 surplus there for you, without going into too much detail on exactly what happens, because obviously we can then start looking at gross profit, net profit, other expenditure, so on and so forth. I'm just keeping it very, very, very simple here, Kieron,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And excuse me. And that's how it works. And let's say you generate £20,000 revenue, and from that you've got £10,000 that goes towards costs. To make it even simple.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got £10,000 left over. Okay. And if that includes the £5,000 for the bank funding, take that off. Obviously, the repayments that you're making to the bank are a cash flow thing; they're not a cost because you had the money in the first place.
Yep.
You've then got £10,000 left over. If it's £15,000, you've still got £5,000 left over.
Yeah. Either way, you're in net profit.
Your quid's in.
Yeah.
And that's the aim of the game.
Yeah. And I mean,
What are some of the benefits, Kieron, of leverage, financial leverage?
the increased capacity for investment. It allows you to, as I said earlier, it's a bit like a force multiplier. If I can afford to personally invest £1,000, that's great, but it's not a lot of money. If I can leverage a bank's £100,000 and invest it to make £150,000, well, suddenly, I've made 50 grand, paid back £100,000 worth of bank loan, hypothetically based on very quick thing there.
Yeah.
I've got let's say it's 5%, and okay, cool, of that 100 grand, that extra £50,000 profit, even call it 10%, right? I pay £10,000 in interest, so I've paid back the bank £110,000. I've leveraged their money, paid them back £10,000, and got £40,000 for myself.
Yeah, and what's even better is, especially if you're selling some kind of a product, and again, using your example, I know we're trying to skew the examples in favor of what we're trying to share, but we're simplifying it.
Yeah.
And even if the £1,000 they said you've got to invest, let's call it 10 grand.
Yeah.
When you're buying £10,000 worth of stock, you get a very different price to when you're buying £100,000 worth of stock.
Yeah.
So you'll get it cheaper.
Yeah, you get economies of scale.
You're still selling it for the same price if you wanted to, and you should do. So but your margin increased because you bought
More
by
of
paying
it.
less, because you bought more of it.
Yep.
And if you wanted to turn that stock over quicker, you could offer some kind of an incentive and you use some of that saving from the margin because you bought cheaper to give some of that away to your customers. So turn it around quickly. So now you're turning that money around, say, twice
Even
a year
faster.
as opposed to once a year.
Yeah.
So you've doubled that leverage as well.
Yeah.
But we don't want to go too deep into all of this. Otherwise he will be here for a long time.
But
you get the point.
Yeah. I mean, the point is there that the faster you can turn it around, even if and it's the idea that I must have everything and it all must be mine. It's that selfish approach that prevents people from growing or being successful or marketing well, and so because they want it all to be them.
Yep.
The second you stop being selfish about your margin and you go, I need to make this as a minimum, add 5%. Okay, that's your threshold. Cool. Everything else I can give back to the supplier, give back to the customer, put into marketing, give to the team, profit share, help somebody else out.
Sales team, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
All of that, when you start giving out, suddenly you'll be amazed at the abundance that comes back to you.
Absolutely.
There's a really powerful story about a company in America, and the CEO got told he was bonkers and that he was going to bankrupt himself. Mm-hmm. But when everyone else was making redundancies, he increased all of his staff's salary to something ridiculous like 70k, 100k, something like that. As a bare minimum. That was the least anyone in his company was going to earn. And he gave them an extra day off. Everyone told him he was bonkers, that was crazy. The revenue for the company went up over 300%. in 6 months. Staff were happy. They weren't recruiting anymore because staff were staying.
That's huge leverage, isn't it?
Yeah. But all of that from leveraging his finances and his bonus pool and going, do you know what? I'm going to protect my staff first. I'm good. Because, I mean, he had other stuff that he could fall back on.
Yeah.
But he protected his staff first. He leveraged his money for their time. And the results speak for themselves.
And we've obviously covered the second point in terms of the kind of really quick benefits of financial leverage is the potential for higher returns. Is an example that I've shared, and then obviously that you've shared. And the third one obviously is if you are borrowing money and paying some kind of a return on it, and let's just call it interest for now to keep it really simple. Then you can the interest cost is an allowable cost for tax purposes.
That's something you know all about.
Yeah, and so there's a tax saving benefit.
Yeah, yeah.
Now
there are some risks involved with.
Let's cover. So we've covered 3 benefits. Let's cover 3 risks. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So debt must be repaid. First risk, regardless of your investment's performance, regardless of how well you do. If it doesn't sell and you've borrowed money to sell something, or you've borrowed money to invest in something and the investment doesn't pay off, you've still got to pay that back.
If you don't, then those nasty people in black suits are coming for you.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
And there's no getting away from that. You've borrowed something, you've got to give it back.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
So make sure when you enter that arrangement, go into it with your eyes open.
Yes. Yep.
The second one is if it isn't a fixed rate of interest, it's a variable rate, and interest rates go up, you'll have to pay more on your money that you borrowed.
Yep.
So I always say go fixed rate. If you're
I always say go fixed rate.
Some people like to go variable, so just be aware, especially on when you're buying property.
Property, yeah.
And the third one, Kieron, is?
Credit risk. Over leveraging can lead to a lower credit rating, which then increases the cost of borrowing and in the future.
High credit risk, yeah.
Yep, because you're a high risk. Because for all your own leveraging and your own risk assessment and your own due diligence, or anyone that's going to lend you money is doing exactly the same thing to you. They are assessing the risk level of lending you the money, whether or not they're going to get it back. They're assessing how reliable you're going to be. So they're doing their own due diligence, but on you.
Let's say someone's out there, Kieron, and says, I'm no good with money. And the last time I borrowed £10,000, I didn't do well with it or through it. I just spent that on things I shouldn't have spent it on, i.e. let's call it a bounce back loan, because we know loads of people out there having read, obviously, on social media and the internet, that they've used funds where they shouldn't have used. Of course, because we've seen it on the internet, it must be true.
Yep.
What would you say to that type of person? Says, I'm scared of borrowing money because my previous experience wasn't so great.
Was it not so great because you personally chose to do something? What's the word I'm looking for? Irresponsible with the money?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you have a deep-seated proclivity to borrowing for no reason? Because why are you borrowing? If you want to buy a house and you've got a deposit, you go and borrow some money off the bank to buy a house, you're borrowing it for a specific purpose. If I go to the bank tomorrow and say, can I have a £15,000 loan? And they go, yeah, sure, what for? Well, I haven't really decided. I just fancy having 15 grand in my account that I can spend. Terrible idea.
Yes.
Absolutely terrible. Awful idea.
Don't do it.
Just don't. You don't need it. So the answer is, why are you looking at borrowing it? If you're worried about what you're going to do with the money, then you've not got a purpose for it to be borrowing it.
And of course, seek support.
Yeah.
So if you have an accountant or some kind of a financial advisor or a significant other who can assist and support you, or a good team member, if you have a team, so they can manage the money for you, even in terms of making the investment in stock items, whatever it might be, working capital, whatever you're doing with it. Okay?
Yeah.
So you got that there. What if someone says to you, Kieran, my dad or mom, granddad or grandma said, if you can't afford to pay it in cash, don't buy it. As in, don't borrow money.
I think different people have different beliefs and different people have different ideas about how it works. And if that's how it works for you, then I completely respect that and understand that. But let me posit to you that whilst we are talking about, banks and interest at the moment, when we're talking about leveraging finance, we are talking about all types of leverage of finance. So if that is, for example, my dad owns a business and can afford to invest a bit in me, but I will owe him a little bit of equity within my company, that's fine too. But as long as I am giving back as much or more than I am receiving. So if you want to buy something completely for cash, okay, it's going to take you a lot longer to get to where you want to go. And you'll be able to do less with your finances to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and of course it depends what place your parents or your grandparents, because that's the general example people give, come from. If they've all owned businesses and are talking from that place, fine. But if they haven't had a business, for example, and are giving you advice just based on their personal thing, and usually, I think their advice usually, I'm generalizing here, Kieran, it's about if you're buying a car for yourself, pay cash.
Yes.
If you've got your own house, try not to take a mortgage. If you do, pay it off quickly.
Yep.
I don't think their advice usually, unless they've owned a business, extends to a business.
No,
Yet
I don't
people
think it
use
does.
that personally. My dad said, or my mum said, or whoever. Okay, if you buy a car, don't get it on a hire purchase or a PCP or contract hire, whatever. Make sure you own it outright, and they use that and then bring it into business. Well, business and personal, two very different things.
Two very different things.
And you can run in tandem and parallel with most things.
Yeah.
But when it comes to investing, I think it needs to be dealt very differently.
Yeah.
We've got Bash, Kieran.
Okay.
Who says, what would be the best way to invest, i.e. stocks, make a business, or buy a business, or start a business, buy property to rent, etc. He's 23 years old and still in education, but hopes to start work soon. He asks because he would like to invest at least 50, I assume it says 50%, but it could be £50, but he says just 50 of my future salary when I graduate and get a job. I've tried many side hustles and all of them haven't worked.
Try another one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to preface this with I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not qualified to give financial
So
investment
Bash is
advice.
50% of his income.
Okay. Hi, Bash. Nice of you to be listening. Glad you asked the question. Like I say, I'm not a financial advisor, but for me personally, I would say, always own a business. Start a business. And the business can be almost anything you want, anything that you are an expert in, anything that you feel comfortable with. And, and I know you said that you've tried a couple of side hustles and they haven't worked out.
We don't know what they are, so.
I don't know what they are. But if you're going to go into side hustles, what level of side hustle are you going into? Are you, because that's such a broad, wide-reaching net.
Well, I'll tell you what's good is, of course.
But I'm glad you're thinking about it at your age. That's fantastic.
You've taken the word out of my mouth. At the age of 23, Bash, if you're thinking about investing, and 50% is brilliant, okay?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know how you're going to do that. I mean, again, just making an assumption that you probably live with your parents, maybe, and then they're going to be supporting you, which is obviously brilliant.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And if you're not, how you're going to manage to live on just 50% of your salary is something I'd like to know, because I'd like to do that too.
I'd love to be able to do that.
But just because you're thinking about it, okay, that alone is very, very good.
It's a great start.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the stock market, as Kieran, you know.
No.
I have some money invested in the
As do I.
stock market because I believe in diversifying.
Yep.
But as Kieran says, Bash, for me it's business or property.
Yep.
I like both of those.
Property as business.
Yeah, I like those both, and I do both of them in different guises. So my advice, and Kieron says, Bash says, yes, live with my parents, and previously tried Etsy stores, make YouTube shorts, TikToks, foreign exchange, that type of stuff.
Okay, so looking at the stuff you've done, YouTube Shorts. YouTube is something I happen to know a lot about.
I know you do.
And any YouTuber will tell you that YouTube works in time. It takes time to build an audience. You take Mr. Beast, for example, massive, one of the largest YouTubers in the world, if not the largest YouTuber in the world.
Huge following.
Massive following. He didn't get that huge following overnight.
Consistency.
Go back to his channel and watch the first video he ever did and compare it to the most recent one. That sort of thing. Or go back through the Wealth Made Simple catalogue and look at starting property with no money. So looking at being deal sourcing or rent to rent, things like that. That would be where I would steer if I was in your position.
Bash is a very lucky guy, and I'll tell you why. Because he's caught us right at the end. And don't do this every single week, Bash, by the way. But,
we don't.
Because you've done it today, you've caught us right towards the end of the show. What we are going to do, to be fair to you, because you made the effort, is next week, okay, tune in at the start of the show, and we are going to cover your question for you in detail to give you advice, because we've only got a few seconds left, and it'd be unfair for us to give you a very short answer. So thank you very much for your question, and thank you everybody else for tuning in. Until next week, take good care of yourselves, and make sure you keep leveraging your business, because it's the only way to go in our experience. Bye
You're
for now.
listening to Salam Radio, and it's now time for Us at Azan. This Azan is sponsored by UK Islamic Mission.